Alright, so today I'm going to make a couple of different pots. And what I've done is I actually threw them, a similar pot yesterday that are like leather hard. So I'll even be able to show you today how to finish them. So the first thing I'm going to do is a pitcher. And this is 3 pounds of clay. Alright, so I'm just going to open that up. I'm going to smooth out my bottom. If you have questions, just type them in, and I'll try to get around to them. I could probably see them as you type them, so I'll try to answer. So right now I'm just pulling up this cylinder. And give it one more. Now, one of the things that I always say in my demos is that whenever you're doing something that's like tall and skinny, you want to make sure that you never let this rim get wider than the base. Once the rim gets wide, it just wants to spin itself out. Centrifugal force will push it out. Gravity pushes it down, and you lose it. It's really hard to get it back. So always try to stay in that nice like cylindrical shape. It's much easier to stay there than it is to try to get it back. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start to shape this a little bit. And I'm using a stainless steel rib. Just something I made. And this, I'm going to do a bead on the foot. This is just a rib that I made out of a piece of plexiglass that I cut. So what I'll do is I'll just stick that in the bottom. The problem with pitchers is once you make the spout, they become kind of difficult to trim. To get recentered back on the wheel. So I like to sort of get my foot and my bottom finished on the wheel as I'm throwing it. And then that way all I have to do is kind of sponge it off when I'm done. I went out with this a little further than I wanted to, so I'm just going to try to push it back in a little. Trouble when you're doing these videos is you're not really, I'm not really looking fully what I'm doing. I'm only kind of half paying attention, so. That's 3 pounds, Jim. All right, so now I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. And I like to leave a little bit of fat at the rim, so when I pull the spout, I have a little bit of extra clay there. It's another little tool that's just a piece of wood with a notch cut out of it. Now I'm just going to bring the neck up with this a little bit. Give a little detail here. Alright, so now I'm just gonna undercut the bottom a little bit. And then I'm gonna make my spout. And what I do with the spout is I just pinch a little bit up. Make it nice and flat. Get all the boogers off. So you can see that it's just like flat across now. So then I'm just gonna pull the spout. And I like to get in there and kind of go into the throat a little bit, just to make sure that it pours good. I have some brown clay on the wheel here, and it's kind of getting onto the pot, but whatever, I'll wipe it off later. So anyway, that's the body of the pitcher. You know, so now watch this through magic of modern television. So now we have a leather hard one here. I'm going to show you how to put a handle on. Let's see if I can tip this down. So what I do for the handle is it's just a piece of clay. It's like a carrot kind of shape. You know, when you're making handles, everybody's got their own way, but I like to have like a little bit on the end that I can kind of hold on to, right? I always feel like the closer you are to the handle shape that you want, then the less you have to do to make your handle. So you just want to score up where you're going to attach it. And that one about here. You know, with teapots and pitchers, you want to think about make sure that you are directly across from like your spout, or you know, even with like a mug, if you have a spot that's got like a little dent on it or something, put your handle there so you cover it up. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip that in some water, and I'm just going to pull it And as I pull it, I try to like take my thumb and just kind of put my thumb and make that little design. So then my handle's close to where I want it now. And I'm just going to take this tool and cut it off. Make sure I have a nice flat cut, right? Nice and flat. And then this is like the most important part. I'm gonna kind of hold it just a little bit above my thumb and my pointer finger, and I'm just gonna tap it down. And what that does is it creates a little like thin flange, right? You can see that maybe. So then I'm gonna scratch up this side. And then when I stick the handle on the pot, I'm gonna use that little bit of a flange, and that's what's gonna be gonna help attach it to the pot. The reason I like to pull them off the pot themselves, I just think that it makes them look a little bit more like they're part of the pot, and less like they're just stuck on. Now there's a lot of great people that make great handles out there that do look like they're stuck on, and that's just part of the aesthetic. But the way that I make them is just the way that I like them to look on my pots. So let's see here. We're gonna make sure that's good. So then I will go back later when this stiffens up a little bit and put like a little like thumb pour thing on there. But you can't do that now, it's still too wet. So I'm just going to give that a little spin around. You can kind of see how it looks. Right. So there you go. There's a picture. Pull the wire under the picture. Frank, I don't wire underneath. I will let that just dry until it pops off. Once it pops off, then I'll just take a sponge and sponge off the bottom. If I am wiring them, I will purposely leave a little bit more clay. But those ones, a lot of times with pictures, I just throw them so that I don't have to trim them. And when they pop off nice and smooth. So the next thing I'm gonna do, try to get some of this brown clay off of here, is I'm gonna make a pitcher, or not a pitcher. I'm gonna make a casserole, right? So this is 4 pounds of clay. I'm just going to center this like you would anything else. And if there's stuff you want to see me do, put it in the comments and I'll try to do it next time. I like to have, the one ready to trim and finish, so I can do it all in one shot. Just because I think it finishes the thought, otherwise, you kind of see the first half, but you maybe don't tune in for the second half. Alright, so I opened the bottom and smoothed it out, and now I'm just lifting this up, paying attention to leave a nice thick rim at the top, because I'm gonna have to split this rim to make my to make my flange for the lid. Alright, so just making sure that's nice and smooth, and the transition on the inside is nice and smooth, so as you're serving out of it, it's not going to be lumpy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pointer finger and I'm just going to split this. I'm going to split this rim in half. Alright, and that becomes my flange for the lid to set. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to, be enough to sort of catch the lid. All right. So that's the bottom. That's the base of the pot. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of calipers and I'm going to caliper this on the inside. I'm going to point to it with the needle tool. I'm going to caliper on the inside of the flange, here and here, because that's where the lid's going to fit. That's where the outside of the lid has to fit. Okay. All right. So that's that, right? Show you that. That's on the inside. Let me show you that. All right. Move this over here. Running out of space. Now, when you're working on stuff with lids that you have to measure, if you knock your calipers, always double check. Don't be lazy and just let it go, because there's nothing worse than making a bunch of lids that don't fit. All right, so this is 2 pounds of clay. This is going to be my lid. Alright, so now I'm gonna just open up basically a bowl for the lid. I like to leave a little bit of meat on the bottom of these, so that when I trim them, I can trim them to get a nice lid shape. Alright, so you see about how, so I have about an inch and a half to go here. If I was making a bunch of these, I would set up a pointer so that I could know where to stop them. But because I'm just doing one, I'm not going to bother. Right, so I got about a 1/4 of an inch left. And it's always good to go in small increments at the end, because it does come out relatively fast. looks pretty good. Alright, right on the money, right? So I can move these things right through. Just barely touches. Put a little decoration in there. And I always like to go back and undercut them so that when I do wire them, the wire has like a good place to, I don't know if you can see like that undercut. You know, so there's the top. So, we've got the top, we've got the bottom. I am gonna just make an adjustment here real quick, and I will show you how to trim them, because I have them already done. Alright, so you are gonna come over here. Alright, should be able to see okay. Alright. I'm just gonna get all my parts here. Put this up there. So I'm using the Giffen grip. You know, you don't. I like it. I like this tool for stuff that's like plates and bowls. This one's, I haven't used it in a while. It's got a bunch of clay and shit on the track inside, but. You know, the trouble with the Giffen grip is you want to be careful when you crank it down onto your pots. You don't want to go too hard. Otherwise, you know, they tend to want to crack or dent. All right, so now I'm gonna trim this stuff off. Alright, so now I'm going to make like the foot. At what point do I undercut? Shayna, I undercut right when I'm about to take, right before I take it off the wheel. Alright, so I'm just going to finish that up. I like to go back and kind of burnish it with my finger. dent there. I just want to get a piece of clay in. Alright, and then I will give it like a little spot to stop glazing at, a little ridge. Alright, so that's the bottom. I'll do the lid next. I do like to put a little decoration on here. I'll do that now. I'll put my stamp on it. Alright, so that's that, right? There's a little like detail on the side. Alright, so let's put this down. Get the lid. You know, I just feel like that thing's got junk in it. I'm just gonna put this down regular way. You know, if your pot it doesn't seem like it's centered, don't try to trim it because it's just going to make it even worse. Make sure you get it centered. For some reason that didn't want to center on the Geffen grip. I think there might be a bunch of junk in there and it's not, the arms aren't sliding down the way they should, but you know, for the extra minute it takes to sort of do it the right way. Alright, so now I'm going to trim this, right? So we'll peel this away. You know, keeping in mind that this is a lid, not a top, or not, you know, not the bottom, so you don't really have to make a foot. I'm just going to make it kind of rounded, because that's how the shape is on the inside. When I threw it, I intentionally left a little bit of extra clay so that I could kind of get the trimming done that I wanted. I like to make like a spiral on these. So first I'm going to make a little notch. And I had like a couple of accent marks on the bottom of the casserole. So I'm gonna repeat those here. Okay, so now I'm gonna make the handle for the lid, and then I'm gonna make the handle for the pot. Let's see here. I'm gonna extrude them out real quick. I apologize if you can't see. So, let's see here. I'll show you that. All right. So, what I did is I extruded a piece of stock out, right? That's like sort of a tapered oval. That needs to be just a little bit longer. It's always better with handles to have a little bit more than not enough. You can always trim a little off. Right, so that's going to go here. So I will just make a mark. People ask me all the time, how come you don't slip and score? I don't put slip on per se, but I do make sure that I get some slip going with the water and the scratchy tool. It probably has a lot to do with how dry the pots are when you're working with them. I've never had a problem with anything coming off, but that's just how I do it. It's how I work. All right, so I'm just sticking that on. Now I'm going to pick this up and sort of get my hand on the inside, and I'm just going to give it a little push down here, and then I'm going to take this tool. It's just a little piece of clay that I made that has a spiral in it. Right, so there's your handle and your lid. Fun little casserole top. Let's see, I'll put that here. And then I'm going to do the bottom part, handles. I need to make this a little higher because I can't see it. All right, so now I can see. Um, I'm gonna put this on. You know, when I scratch this, I like to scratch, a couple different directions, and it just kind of works up the clay into a little bit of a slip. And then you can put that there. Put that there. And then I'm going to take my finger on the inside of this. Make it so you can see it. Alright, do that. Casserole handles, you want to make sure that when you do them, that they are sufficient enough to be, if they're going to be going in the oven, they're going to be coming out with, you're going to have oven mitts on, more than likely. So if you make like dinky little handles on something that's going to be coming in and out of the oven, it's going to be difficult to get out and have a good hold on. Always try to consider what your pots are going to be used for. The aesthetics are important, but the function, is sometimes more important. All right, we got that and that. Alright, and then let's see here, we'll get the lid. Alright, and there it is. Alright, so that's all set. Let that dry. I'll just, go back and sponge off some little spots now. But, so we got that. And then, let's see here. I'm going to flip this around real quick. Ooh. That's the picture from before. Again, here's the casserole. That's the one that I threw before. All right, and that's it.